To me, an interview means an opportunity to put your best foot forward and to sell the person in terms of being a candidate for the position that you're looking for.
Well, I believe that an interview is you telling a story about yourself. An interview is really about selling who you are, what you've done. So you really have to craft a story about yourself. And most people don't tell a story. They tell what they've done, but you have to create a story, describe what you've done. So it's about storytelling. That's very important.
Well, I think that for a candidate to be well prepared, that they've done their homework and they know about the company and the position that they're being interviewed in.
I think one of the most important parts is having good communication skills. Can you tell that story to me? Do you show poise? Are you comfortable? You have to be comfortable because you want this job and you have to sell me. So when you're not comfortable in telling this story, you won't be selling me and I won't be impressed. So you have to be comfortable.
My expectations are that all the candidates have to be well-rounded. Just because you have a great GPA, it isn't added. But you must demonstrate leadership and you must demonstrate teamwork and ability to, perform at the best and be who you are.
Be prepared to sell yourself. What we want to hear from you as a company is on why you'd be a great addition to our firm. So give us examples of the initiative you've taken, volunteer opportunities you've taken in school, leadership opportunities as well. Tell us what initiative you've taken in terms of other technical trainings or certifications you may have looked into. Let us know why this is a good long-term career choice for you.
So when I'm getting prepared to interview a candidate, I do expect the candidate to be relatively prepared. I know that first impressions are lasting ones, and sometimes the appearance, what they're wearing, is a really good indication of how serious they are of the interview and how well prepared they came. Also, I do like to see candidates look me in the eye, generally greeted with a firm handshake and a friendly smile. So I think that's one of the first things I look for, and that gives me a lasting impression. I think it's important for you to prepare for an interview and understand what each firm or company you're interviewing for is looking for. Each company will have their own way of interviewing. Each company will have their particular criteria that they're looking for. Some firms will be looking for only your skills and your knowledge or expertise, and they will ask you questions around what you've been doing with those skills. Other firms are looking for the way you think and will give you business cases to solve to test your ability to think on the spot. So it really is important to do your prep work before your actual interview, so you're best prepared.
So we want to know that you're smart, that you're savvy, as well as that you want this job. As far as being smart, we want to know that you're technically smart for the role. As far as being savvy, we want to know that you're just somebody that would get along with the team, as well as somebody that our clients are going to really enjoy as well. So personality, strong communication skills are going to be a big part of it. And then lastly, we want to know that you want this role and that you want to be with the company for a long time period as well. We make a lot of effort to screen and find the right candidates for the role. We want to make sure that this is a place that you honestly want to be for a while.
I think one of the deciding factors between two candidates is first when you first meet them, their first impression. Some of it has to do with their being a professional appearance and professional demeanor, and being open and honest and excited about the position. You want to see someone that is really looking forward and interested in what they're applying for, and seeing that they would be a great candidate to work with in the future.
Well, then again, see, the greatest selling point about one interview is what you have done differently. Because many people are looking for this one specific job. They're all smart, they're all well educated. They may have great GPAs, they may have great degrees. But what makes you different? Why should I hire you? So if you can't tell me what makes you different, then you're no better than the candidate before or the candidate afterwards.
Make proper eye contact during your interview. I think people will feel that you're connected with them that way, but a lot of times people make the mistake of, as they're thinking, they'll look down on the ground or look up at the ceiling or look off to the side, and people feel a disconnect. So it's really important to keep proper eye contact during the interview.
I think one thing candidates should always remember is to follow up with the interviewers with a thank you note or a follow-up email or a follow-up phone call. It's always something that I remember from those individuals that I interviewed. They're touching base with them, in the next few days. It always kind of brings back some fond memories of the conversations we had, and reminds me of why the person could be a great candidate and a great person to work with.
Well, after interviews, the only kind of follow-ups that I've experienced really are phone calls and emails to thank me for my time. And I think that that's a very good protocol to follow. It just tells me that the candidate is very appreciative of my time. It also tells me that the candidate thinks of the whole process is just very important to him or her. So I think that little small gesture goes a long way and definitely makes you stand out among the rest.
One of the worst interviews that I probably had was when I was interviewing a candidate, and I asked them why they were interested in the job, and they flat out said they weren't really interested in the position and that they were just going through the interview and didn't really want to be there.
It seems really basic, but a lack of professionalism actually stands out. I've been involved in interviews before where, very few luckily, but interviews where candidates would use foul language and thought that it was a way to connect with their interviewers and be friends with them. But the truth is, this is a professional meeting, so you want to make sure that you keep your communications professional as well.
They don't know the job that they're interviewing for, and they don't know the company that they're interviewing for.
A gentleman coming in for an interview, and he was too afraid to look at me in the face and hardly said a word to me. I really do feel that it is a conversation. Interviews should be a two-way conversation, and you can't have that two-way dialogue when you come in for an interview and you're expected to only respond when the interviewer asks you questions.
When I first got out of college to go through the interview process, and the one thing I learned is that back then I was really not that smart in terms of interviewing. I had no one to help me to prepare, and so I went there not knowing to ask the right questions, going in terms of having long hair, because back then long hair was in, and not even going in a suit. And so you could imagine the results of that interview, and I didn't learn about all the necessary things to do for a successful interview until afterwards. For international students, I do understand that it is a much more difficult path for gaining employment in the United States. Nevertheless, I would say that it is imperative that you do not be discouraged and that the discouragement does not show up in the interview process. That you have to put your best foot forward and demonstrate that you are an exceptional candidate that is able to help the organization that you are seeking employment from, irrespective of whether you're an international student or not. Well, from my own personal experience, as I indicated earlier, I was very unprepared. So I would say that if you have the opportunity and you're an Ascend member, take advantage of all of the programs that we are putting together, whether it's the help in the resume writing, or help in the mock interviews, or getting a mentor to help guide you in terms of the do's and not to do's, so that way you could be as well prepared for your interview as possible.
Research a company before you actually go on the interview. And if you're still in the application process, go ahead and Google and see if you can make some sort of contact into the firm as well. The companies want to know that you're serious about the process and that you actually are taking the initiative to learn more about them. So that way, by the time you actually go on the interview, you have valid questions that actually pertain to the company and show that you're engaged and that you're really serious about the next step in your career.
So my advice for those of you who are already in the interview process is don't be afraid to continuously reinvent yourself and change and adapt. I think as you go through interviews, you learn about what things to avoid, what things you should be highlighting of your experience and knowledge. So don't be afraid to adapt and change and be better prepared for your next interview. That's probably the best advice I can give.